So welcome back to the WSU Democrats podcast. This is actually the last podcast of the semester, so we have a very special guest who I'll allow to introduce themselves, introduce both of your very prestigious roles.
I am Danielle King. I'm the chair of the Davis County Democratic Party and newly elected official for City Council as of January.
Awesome. And we're also joined by...
I'm Vaughn, I'm the vice president.
Alexandria Tover, the Women's Committee Chair.
And Mike Ortega, the Campus Affairs Director for the College Democrats here.
And I'm the president of the organization. I don't think I said that yet, so let's get right into the first question. So as you just said, you wear both a party leadership hat and a local government hat. How has serving on the Clearfield City Council, although you've only served for a short period of time, how has that shaped the way you think about what county Democratic Party should actually be doing on the ground?
Wow. So it's given me a really big perspective, not only campaigning in my district in Davis County, but actually getting to talk to people and what they want out of their representatives has been super important. You don't ever hear people bring up the cultural class issues whenever you're on the ground talking with people face to face about what matters day to day them. It is affordability. It's being able to buy a house. It's groceries, daycare, sidewalks, whether it's the mom who's pushing her stroller and can't, it's super hard for her to carry groceries and push the stroller, but there's steps to the trail and the sidewalks are broken. There's potholes and your car's, already old and you're one paycheck away from, not being able to pay your rent, and then you hit a pothole and there goes your tire, and then you need a new tire. It's the things that are affecting people's everyday lives, and they want people to show up for them and actually work towards the things that are going to matter to their families, their lives, their budgets.
Awesome. I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, it was interesting to me that where you said that people don't really bring up the class or culture issues, right? Mm-hmm. Me personally, as someone who sort of comes to the Democratic Party from the sort of further left wing, I would argue that that very issue that you outlined is sort of a class issue, because who are the people that struggle with groceries? Who are the people that struggle with that pothole, with that last paycheck, with that tire, with the child care is almost exclusively working class people. Right.
No, I meant clash. Clash.
Okay, I thought you said class.
It's
okay.
Definitely a class issue.
Yeah.
Because these workers are working for giant corporations that aren't paying a livable wage. They aren't giving them health care. They don't have the basics that they need to survive, let alone thrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how would you address that sort of very one-sided issue of it is, and whether it's, working class in some place that's poor or working class in a place, because a doctor is still technically a working class person. How do you bridge the gaps to find those solutions that help the whole disparity of the working class, from the poorest to sort of the most successful working people?
I think this has been talked about a lot, but there is, I think you said it, there's working class and then there's the billionaire class. And right now, even if you have $1 million, $2 million in your savings, it's not enough to retire on. And so taxing the billionaire class, Warren Buffett talks about it a lot. He doesn't mind being taxed and giving his, money. If you tax over a certain amount, to become a billionaire, most people in their lives, even if you added up the whole country's salary, you could never even come close to that $1 billion number. And so I think that's a really important part of it, but also holding corporations accountable. Corporations like Walmart, they're in every community, and they are taking from communities. So whenever they go in, not only are they not paying their people livable wages, they'll keep people under 30 hours so that they can't get health care. So not only are they not paying that, they get giant tax breaks, but then they double dip because the people working for them are on welfare. They need food stamps. They need housing assistance. and that's taking from the community twice.
And then,
And to sort of bring this back to the issue of like local county politics, where do you think that because people say that all politics are local, like where do you think those issues where, we can't sue Walmart, right, as a county government, where do you think that sort of local politic comes into sort of alleviating those issues?
I think that that would come in mostly at the county and state levels. I think that the state legislator, we've seen that the governor just recently in New York can say, we are going to tax the rich. We are going to tax people who are buying these houses and they're getting this, money and taking up space, but they do not live here. They are not New Yorkers. And I think at the state level, we're able to do those things. And at the county level, I don't really know that that's in their purview, and I definitely know it's not in my purview as city council, but I do know as city council, our planning commissions and city council are responsible for land use and how our land is used, what businesses come in, and so like Syracuse getting a Costco over a Walmart, Costco brings business into communities and surrounding communities. They pay livable wages. They pay health care. They don't have a high turnover because people like working there. And because it's a bulk, store, people will drive an hour to go shop there and they make a whole day of it. So then they go to the local restaurants. Maybe they'll go to other local retailers and they spend their money at Costco. And then that tax money is also going back into that community.
right. And then I just also wanted to say, because it kind of works out for you, because although the city council can only do so much, as the Davis County Democratic Party chair, you actually get to help these state candidates, get elected into the legislature. Obviously, we need the governor's approval for any kind of tax increase on the billionaires or the wealthiest of the wealthy. But then also, as chair of the Davis County Democratic Party, you can also focus on national races and things like that. What would you say you're doing to support candidates in Davis County, especially because, and I said this in my things here, what do you think Davis County Democrats need to do differently to keep growing in a county that has been competitive in some places but still leans conservative overall? That's kind of what I'm asking.
So I think, so I started getting involved in politics about 3 years ago. And I moved to Utah. For the first time in my life, I had a good paying job. I had health care. I had housing security. And I was able to start stepping up, and I wanted to get more involved now that I had the ability to. So I became secretary of the Davis County Democrats. I won that election. And then I saw that a lot of the county parties, there was no infrastructure, there was no support, and they were more social clubs rather than advocates and support for candidates and getting good people elected. And so whenever I became chair, I said, I want us to be phone banking, door knocking, fundraising, providing resources and training. And we've done a lot of that. We did a training for municipal candidates, and we were able to push a lot of candidate forums that in those cities, those people would have just been acclimated because there was no other options. But because we did a training and people decided to file because they had more information, it pushed those discussions. Our candidates this year, I've got a Slack chat with them, a group text with them. We've provided 2 trainings now. We are working on a field plan. So the state party isn't as invested in Davis County because Salt Lake County obviously is where a lot of the Democrats are. But I believe that Davis County is changing, and I believe that we can flip seats this year. So we are investing the money that we fundraised into a field plan. We're going to focus on specific races with that money and then fill in the other races with volunteers, our House District chairs, our precinct chairs. The last 2 years, we didn't have any active precinct chairs. As of caucus night, we had almost 500 people show up to caucus night compared to 125 the last caucus night. We had record turnout to convention, and we have over 210 precinct leaders this year that are members that can reach out to their communities and help volunteer with our candidates and help spread the Democrat message that we do support workers. We support minorities. We support, we support working families and making positive change and making it so that people can thrive and just not survive.
Yep. And hold on, I got another question here. Yeah, so basically, I find it very interesting when people don't want to invest in Davis County, because that's one of the only, other than Weber County, I believe there's only one other county that is urban in Utah. So if you wanted to leverage these high populations in these counties, which is how Democrats win, like if you look at any blue state, really what happened, I think with the exception of Alaska actually, the rural areas are overwhelmingly conservative, and then the cities, as they grow, they can just take over the entire state and that sort of thing. So it makes me interested about Davis County, especially on the statewide level, like either for governor or senate or even president, where they should really focus on Weber and Davis County, and as well as squeezing as many votes as they can out of Salt Lake. But also, Davis County has seen, extraordinary growth in the favor of the Democrats, I believe, in the last little bit. And also, when you look at who they vote for, they're less so MAGA Republicans. They're more traditional speaking. I don't know. Do you think anything about that?
So I don't necessarily blame the state party. I mean, they want to spend their resources that they have in the best way possible as well. And I think that they are seeing that things are changing and that we do have people that want to get involved now. But we have not had a Democrat elected in Davis County for 36 years. And so I think when you look at that, and if you're going to dump your money into it, is it worthwhile to dump your money into it? Well, I'm saying this year right now, it is. And we see that with the fundraising that we've done, the amount of monthly donations that we're starting to get. We did tons of candidate recruitment to get really intelligent, smart, compassionate, people that are ready to get to work, to get in those spots so that we can show them that we have Democrats worth voting for.
And then, because you're elected in Davis County, right? Or is that? Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and obviously that's different than a D being next to your name. But I think that is actually hope that being a Democrat is not poisonous. Because I'm sure it did get out. When did you become chair of the Davis County Party?
It was last March, and then I ran for election that same year.
Okay.
But I really think that a big thing that people voted for me was because I did pick certain things, like last mile transit for workers, for the Freeport Center, working with the Wasatch Front Regional Council to get that last mile transit for workers, which I think is a Democrat value. I don't think it's just a Democrat value, though. I think it's in everyone. It is a nonpartisan issue. Streets, instead of policing, can we do more community things like lighting and, programs? And I'm working with communities that care, and they do a lot of prevention and things like that. And I'm big on prevention. Let's try to prevent it if we can, or diversion, because people deserve second chances. And just because they have a bad night, doesn't mean that their life should be ruined. Or, a lot of these lower income folks, you get into the court system and it's just going to drain you financially, and you can never catch up. And it's just, really hard. So I would prefer prevention and diversion in our communities. And I think that things like that stuck with people.
Awesome. I have more questions before we move on?
So I know you just got on to city council, so it might be kind of hard to answer this one so far, but is there anything with the city budget, is there anything that you see the city is overspending on? And if so, where would you reallocate that money into?
I would say I have been blown away by my city and how they handle their budget. Our city manager is really great. Some smaller cities, they don't have city managers. And I think our city manager, our assistant city manager, I've met with every single department, the police department, public works. I've toured, different areas, and each department is cognizant going into a new budget cycle, the things that they would like to have, but the things that they need to be ready to cut if it doesn't fit within the budget. And I have just been overly impressed, them trying to prepare for the future without overspending. And I know that not every city works like that, but I was just really blown away.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing students and young workers care about a lot is whether they can afford to stay in northern Utah. From your local government perspective, what should Democrats be saying or doing more clearly about housing, cost of living, and building communities people can actually stay in?
I think Democrats need to do a better job of letting people know that we support unions, we support the working class, we support families, and that means every kind of family, but every single family has the issue of affordability, groceries, education, and we need to make sure that that is at the forefront of our policy making and of our messaging. I don't know how it got lost somewhere that, Utah is not a very big union state, but I think it got lost somewhere that Democrats support working people, and it really became Democrats want social programs and to tax you. But Democrats want social programs because whenever you are one paycheck away from losing your housing, you need a social net. You need something to get you back on your feet. Otherwise, our homeless problem is just going to get worse. And, so if we're not able to fix these things and kind of reiterate, unions and these things, these are working class issues. And we want social nets because people need them.
Right.
No, I think that point to the unions is really poignant. How have you seen just in your whether it's your sort of career in politics, as nascent as it might be, or early as it might be, how have you seen excuse me, the way that unions have been tangibly affecting people's lives in a positive way? How have you seen that, specifically?
So you can look at the statistics. One specifically, the IBEW, their electrical workers on average, if they're in a union, I forget the exact amount, but it's way above a non-union electrical worker. Mm-hmm. Construction, non-unions. I met with a union head a few months ago and was saying that, these construction workers, they're going into these sites that are unsafe. They're being paid, daily, but they don't have anybody looking out for them. And if other unions do try to help them and go onto those sites, they're banned. They're not allowed to be there. They're not allowed to ask questions to the workers, not talk to them or anything. So safety, livable wages, they're there to make sure that they're not fired for something unreasonable as well. Mm-hmm. They're there to help them work through that with the company, or so be it. But these stewards are people that are standing up for the normal everyday worker whenever they are dealing with a business, corporation, whatever it be.
Yeah, I think that's really excellent, because I just this past year had the opportunity to participate in the picket line for one of my favorite bars downtown in Salt Lake City, where the Sun Trap had they organized with the ULP. Mm-hmm. And as someone who also works in the service industry, actually work also at a bar, I think it's really important that sort of cities and local government sort of make it well known that sort of the city and local government will fight on behalf of not just unions, but workforces looking to build a union. and sort of making the resources available to put employees in contact with union reps so that we can all learn how to organize our own workplaces.
Yeah, and the Utah Education Union, I mean, I think you saw that a lot more people support unions than we think. Only 3% of Utah is unionized, but whenever that union bill came through, I mean, they collected signatures across the state and people supported them. And what a lot of people don't realize is with the education unions, these teachers are not only fighting for their pay, but they're also fighting for classroom size, supplies, and things like that. So it's not just to benefit the teachers, it's also to benefit the kids and the education and the access to supplies that they need, that those teachers are fighting for with portions of their paycheck that go to their union dues.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a lot of family in education, and actually my aunt just retired from being a middle school English teacher. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen, you know, one being a student, but also having family in education, is that like so much of the educational infrastructure is just coming out of teachers' pockets.
Yes.
And I think that's really powerful that you mentioned that one specifically.
All right. So now more so on your role as chair, what does effective county party organizing actually look like between election years? And when there's not a huge race on the ballot, how do you keep people engaged and building momentum instead of disappearing until the next cycle?
So that's a really good question, and something that I'm going to have to learn to do. But I think like last year, we focused on municipal elections. You have to bench build. And a lot of the Republican Party, they start young. They have young people, and they help them, they train them, they get them involved in the party. And then they have more information on how to jump in and running for office. And so I think on these off years, we need to be focusing on training people and getting young people involved and letting them ask questions and get involved in the party. And then in those bigger election years, then you have your volunteer base still as well. You keep your volunteers doing something active with municipal races, and then you already have that, what Brian talked a lot about, infrastructure going into a larger race. So last year we didn't have very many volunteers, but whenever we did start focusing on that municipal race and working on the phone banking, door knocking, a lot of people have never done that. So let's practice a phone bank. Let's learn how to do it and be effective at it before the midterms, before it's super important, and have those people ready to go.
Gotcha.
And where would you direct young people that might be listening that are interested in getting involved with the party in these off years? Where would you send them?
I would send them to their county chairs.
Yeah.
So not every county in Utah has an active Democratic Party, but if they don't have an active Democratic Party, I would tell them to reach out to the state party. They do have a volunteer list that they can sign up for, and then they will send that out to different chairs and things like that. There's also a lot of organizations that support democratic values. I think Better Utah, Stewardship Utah, Planned Parenthood. Start getting involved with them. They also do a lot of advocacy work, which can get them ready to get more involved, and then maybe step into a Democratic, executive committee role, right? Because some of these, they have a chair, but they don't have a vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and I think a lot of people are just uncomfortable taking that first step.
And then what do you think Davis County Democrats need, wrong one. For college students who want to help Democrats win locally, where do you think they can make the biggest difference? Voter contact communications, candidate recruitment, issue advocacy, or something else? And I'm kind of curious to hear what your thoughts are on, because I've heard someone, I think it was Jeremy actually, where he was like, I hate phone banking. And he was basically kind of implying that door knocking might be a better thing to do. But I don't know. What do you think? What should we focus on, like tangibly? What should we literally do to help Democrats?
So door knocking and phone banking and that direct contact is really important, but more so than that, relational organizing. I think with the rise of consolidation of media, with AI and things like that, people trust their neighbors and their friends more. And if you are to text your friend and say, hey, can you come to this phone bank with me? Your contact rate is 100%, rather than if I call to ask you to phone bank, that rate is probably like 40%. And especially like I don't answer my phone, leave a message. But outside of that, a lot of our candidates, they are a little bit older. They need help. They need help with their social media. They need help making their videos to get their message out. And we have to meet people where they are. And a lot of the younger generation is online, and they need help getting online to get their message out there. So if you can find a candidate and say, hey, yeah, I will make your Instagram or Facebook posts once a week, or I can help you get on Discord, or, help them with
legit.
the internet, their graphics, their social media, and really, because that reach is expansive online, and if they're not able to access that, then they're missing a lot of voters, and they're not getting their message out there as effectively.
I think that's a really good point, actually, and that's something that I'm actually interested in doing for candidates or county parties, because I made a lot of posts for the WSU Democrats, including not just reels, but like carousel posts and stuff like that, and that's actually gotten a decent amount of views. We have more followers than a lot, if not, well, I don't know about what the highest followed college club is, but we're one of the highest followed. We have like 630 followers, and a lot of them are students.
Nice.
Yeah. I think we might have a little bit more, but yeah, so that's actually something I'm interested in doing, and helping the Weber County Democratic Party, helping the Davis. So if you have any opportunities, I love to do that kind of thing. Let's see.
If I might, I just wanted to ask, like, being in city council and hearing the sort of complaints and issues that people are facing day to day, and with because one thing in Utah that I've heard of, obviously I don't know this for a fact, but a lot of, like, specifically LDS women will go to the polls just to cancel out their husband's votes. What do you think, like, in your life, hearing from people directly, what have been the issues that Utah women are the most concerned about? Like, what is the thing that is, like, most directly impacting women's lives in your county and in the state?
So I will tell you, while I was running for office, I met with the sheriff, and I asked what the highest percentage of, like, what crime is the highest percentage. It is domestic violence. It is partner violence, and that is an issue across the state. And that is something that I know there are legislators up there trying to address, but violence against women in Utah is just out of control. It is, and I think in, if you are in a religion that doesn't allow women in leadership and different things like that, I mean, I think that sends a message to women, and it's less likely that those issues are going to be addressed, and that it may even be higher in those communities.
Awesome. And do any of you guys sitting in the audience have any questions?
Yeah, let's hear from the peanut gallery.
Yeah, this is the biggest one we've ever had. So,
Any questions, Claire? Claire's our friendly ghost that always sits in the corner. Every single
come on, Jaden. I know you have a question. She's a
Jonathan
city
Aaron.
council member and Davis County Democratic Party chair. Come on now. Sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah, I had a few questions that you actually asked inadvertently, so good job.
Yeah, well, I guess then I will just say, I think in Davis County and Weber, a lot of the candidates have had to do a lot of the heavy lifting by themselves. And if you can't get involved with the candidate and help them with their social media, with their graphics, if you know any kind of how to make a website, a very basic website, just that relational organizing of reaching out to your friends, letting them know about democratic values and why you believe in those democratic values, right? Because a lot of times races don't necessarily change depending on the candidate, although this year I think we have really strong candidates that people are going to believe in, but they believe in the values that they're voting for, and that candidate, no matter who they are going to support those values and those policies. And I think that's, inclusiveness and transparency and good governance.
All right. Well, last question. So you can keep this a little bit broad because you do have two very different roles, but also two, I would say, very impressive roles. I mean, I'd say if I were to have a county chair role and a city council role, I'd feel very good about myself. But what advice would you give to someone who wants to take on, more responsibility, either in the party or in government? What advice would you give to them that you wish maybe you had heard before you got involved?
My advice is to start local with something that you're comfortable with. So beyond a city council position, I first got onto my planning commission. I got appointed to the planning commission, and I spent 2 years on the planning commission working on land use and learning about Robert's Rules of Order, and how to run a meeting. There's state commissions and boards. There are hundreds of them. If you go onto the governor's site, you can find hundreds of positions for, health, business, economics. I think there's even one for, barbers, a board that helps make decisions on certifications and different things for those jobs. Start there, learn what it is like to be on a board and run a meeting, get that confidence, and then you can build up to, bigger things once you start getting that confidence. You don't have to start with running for legislator or Senate or something like that. A lot of people just do jump into that, but it is really important, I think, to learn the basics and build off that, build the confidence, the experience, and then move up into maybe some harder level stuff.
Awesome. Well, Clearfield City Councilmember and Davis County Democratic Party Chair Danielle King, sorry, I did the thing that all the other people in Utah do. Okay, yep, last podcast of the semester. Make sure everyone who's there stands up and says hi to the camera. Make sure the camera can see you. Bye, guys. Oh, that's going to be such a good screenshot. Let's go. All right, bye, guys. Have a good summer.
See you next semester.